Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Women Who Rock with Success Media, an award-winning show for professional women and men. Since 2014, we have provided a voice for entrepreneurs in the areas of business, marketing, advertising, public speaking, lifestyle and wellness coaching, arts and entertainment, fashion designing, interior and exterior designing, and sports. Our guest experts provide the latest information in their field while creating an educational resource for our listeners and viewers. Join us each Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time, followed by our latest brand, Women Who Rock Investigates. Now, let's go to the studio, where our session is already in progress with your show host, Mrs. Diane Winbush.
Women Who Rock with Success complies with the rules and terms according to the Federal Communications Commission podcast guidelines. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own, and their appearance on our digital media platforms does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. All guests who embrace our media stations are experts who are licensed in their fields of occupation. All rights reserved.
And so good morning and, good afternoon, and welcome to Women Who Rock with Success Media. This is our, third or fourth show for today. And so thank you for being with us, hanging in there with us, and tuning in with us on today. So, of course, you know that one of our genres and categories is featuring authors and publishers in the media, and so that's what this segment is going to be entailing. It's going to be talking about authorship, and so one of our return guests is here to follow up with us on one of her sequels that she has published, and so we want to be able to welcome to the studio Jessica Russell. So good afternoon. Welcome, Jessica, and thank you for being our guest on today.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. So we are excited about your sequel, your latest release, and so, of course, we want to jump right into it. You know, before, I think it was about a couple of days ago, I started back watching. I watch it all the time, and that's, of course, the Jeanette Oak series and novel, and it just kind of took me back to some of your playwriting as to how you present your characters back in the ancient times and what have you, and so I just love it. And so that's the reason why I'm excited about this show specific segment on today, because we want to learn a little bit about your new sequel release. So first of all, for the audience and listeners who are new to you as a guest, we want you to be able to share a little bit about you, and I guess as to what was your passion to get into writing.
Well, I actually started writing. I started writing web content, which I still do. And I'm sorry, I just had some interference there. And that's kind of interesting because my day job is also writing. So I started that way first, like writing web content for travel sites. Then I branched out into other areas. I still specialize in travel. But always, of course, in the back of my mind was I want to write creative too, and I would write different things like short stories and things like that. But, I guess a novel is every writer's dream. And then Hot Winter Sun, which was the first book in this series, that was kind of cooking for many years before I actually finally said, okay, I'm going to sit down and write it, and then it just, when I realized how much I enjoyed it, it's like between my day job and my night job, there's no other life for me but writing, really. It's just, I don't know, if I'm not doing it for clients, I'm doing it for my novels, and I just can't ever imagine doing anything else. But it was enjoyable. I hear about writers who have to, force themselves over to the computer, and, I have writer's block, I can't get started. I have to set, okay, I'm going to write this many words today no matter what. I can't shut my characters up. So I kind of have the opposite problem. I'm there till I'm falling over at the screen.
Wow, that is so very awesome. That is so awesome because sometimes individuals that write blogs, they write papers, whether it's academic or whether it's such as a novelist such as yourself, sometimes individuals can run into the writer's block where what can I write about next, or what is going to be the next chapter that is going to be about. And so I just applaud authors who can be able to do something consistently without them allowing other things to prevent them from stopping. Because in the last time that you were on the show, we talked about that. Coming out with another addition to your first book that you had written. And so I just love it when the author continues to take the reader even deeper into what it is, the story plot. And so I just get a warm sensation over that. And as I shared with you before, and all other authors that are guests on the show, is that my favorite one was Mary Higgins Clark, and then of course she's passed away, but her daughter still writes as of today. So those are my two favorite ones. They'll just grab you in the first paragraph, and I'm through. I'm all the way. The chicken can be burning in the kitchen, but as soon as I can grab one of those books, I love it.
Yeah, they're very, very gifted authors, both of them. I read, I think, my first Mary Higgins Clark when I was probably 12. I read her all through the years, and that she just has that way of, like, there's no lag time. It just moves, and that's what I love about writing like that. Because if you don't want to hear those dreaded words. Somebody finishes your book and says, so what? Because you just didn't get them in there. And that's, that's what I always heave a sigh of relief when I start getting feedback. It's like, okay, it's good. Okay. People like it, because you never know.
Well, right, absolutely. So we want to kind of learn a little bit about your first series. Let's start there first. Let's start the first one so we can be able to dive into the second part of it. So talk to us a little bit about the first story plot that, just a little bit. We don't want to go all the way in because if you're going to talk about it on the radio show, the people are not going to buy it. So we want to leave
exactly.
them in
no spoilers.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to leave them in suspense where they'll say, "Oh, let's go see what the rest of this about." So talk to us just a little bit about, share a few little nuggets of the story plot of your first series, the first part of the series.
Yeah, well, this is, of course, Cold Summer Wind, and it's the second book. And I've decided to go with, sometimes series can have a completely different name, and sometimes the title of the first book is also the name of the series. So I went with that. So it's called the Hot Winter Sun series, and that Hot Winter Sun being the name, of the first book. And that started with, Julian and Catherine and their, everything that happened in that book. And then this one, Cold Summer Wind, follows their daughter, Julia, who they never thought Catherine was going to have a second child. And then all of a sudden, in 1655, Julia appeared. And she's completely different from her mother. I won't give any spoilers away, but Catherine was very serene and peaceful. She was like the peacemaker, the quiet personality, not impetuous, not given to hasty, emotional. Julia ended up more like her father, Julian. So at one point in the book, he even said, "Oh, well, God save us from a young woman with my personality." He said that about his own daughter because she was just, she's kind of a wild child, not does anything horrible or anything, but very just emotional, impetuous, and without kind of giving it away, it's that kind of emotion without thinking enough that kind of starts her off on a really rocky road. And just from one ill-fated decision, she kind of ends up on a roller coaster of crazy twists and turns in her life, all stemmed back just from that, and we've all been there, that one moment in time we do or say this or that, and we don't realize, what it's going to do down the road. And so it's literally got everything in it. It's like a romance, a murder mystery, and even a trip overseas to France with her friend, and some crazy things happen over there. It ended up having not just a plot and a subplot, it ended up with two subplots, which is a little risky, but it just would not, I know it sounds ridiculous to say it wouldn't let me do it any other way, but it wouldn't let me do it any other way. So it's unusual in that sense. But so far, people have enjoyed it. So
great. So this would be another question, and this would be for the audience to be able to perceive from you on a emotional sense. So when you're writing your sequels and what have you, or you're putting together your story plot, so how is your emotional effect on that? Because a person, if they're sitting down writing and what have you, and I'm pretty sure if they're writing a scene when someone is getting shot, then they're going to be in suspense. If a person is getting married, they're going to be crying while they're writing the script, And so tell us a little bit about that. How fulfilling is that for you?
Oh, it's wonderful because the way the characters kind of, I don't know, like they talk in my head. Sometimes I worry about myself. No, not really. But I mean, they're just kind of so poignant in my mind that when the dramatic scenes happen, sometimes I don't even get to the computer because I spend a lot of time outside because I live rural and I just love the outdoors. And I'll just grab my phone and start to dictate it into the voice recorder because it comes so fast. But there were times like I just felt transported right into it. I could literally feel like the breeze blowing on the person when they were standing there having the conversation with someone. I could see the houses. I could feel the fabric of the gown, and I'm looked down. No, I'm touching my own leg here. It's not. I almost felt like I was standing there, And wait, no, I'm not her. Almost like I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to explain is that I feel almost like I am the person in that moment, even if it's like a male character, and I'm writing his line. But I almost like I feel the emotion surging up in me, like I'm the one. I don't know, like I'm literally one person with the character, which maybe that sounds kind of weird to the listeners, but that's how it feels to me. I literally feel every single thought and feeling that they do. But I love it. I mean, it's not, maybe people think it's weird, but I love that feeling. That's like the best. Right. I don't know, when I end a day and I've had that happen during the day in the course of my writing, I just feel like, oh, today was a wonderful day.
Because it seems like it would help you to understand that what you're sensing while you're writing, that's the correct scene, the correct plot, the correct season, whether it's winter, cold, or whether it's hot, or in the springtime or the leaves. Because see, I get a very, very kick out of that too when I'm reading a book, as to, well, it was once upon a time on a cold, streamy day or something like that, or somebody's jogging in the park or what have you. And so that kind of tells the reader as well that you're also into your work, especially if you can be able to feel that you're actually in the scene yourself. You put yourself in the scene for a minute or two while you're thinking, or while you're writing, or where you're compiling your thoughts, or you're brainstorming. So I think that is very, very important, Jessica. And so I just love it because I'm more of an ancient individual. I love the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. I love things like that. I mean, for the new authors that are coming aboard and things, that's good. But I'm more of an older school type of virgin reader, so I like things when people talk about, things that happened back in the days of Gunsmoke. Those are my days, and so I love to read literature and stories and books and sceneries like that. So I think that's very, very great. You put yourself in the midst of it. I never get tired of it, that those, like, just going back into the past and realizing that these were people just like us, but only how different everything was. It's fascinating, but it's just, that was interesting perspective you had on that, because I think if you feel it, that's a good sign, hopefully, that your readers will feel it. Oh, right. Yeah, because that, and a lot of it is, too, like, not making everybody like a cookie cutter. And I think maybe when you feel like you're them, it makes the character more real when you're writing it. Because a lot of people, they'll read a book and say, well, why didn't the character do, they should have done this, they should have done that. But that would be the predictable thing.
I like in my books to kind of the subtext is kind of, why do people do what they do? You know, why would 10 people have done this, but Julia did that? Well, because she's Julia. You know, it's a real person with their own reasons for doing things, you know? Definitely.
Absolutely. So I think on the last time that you were on the show, we talked about some things in regards to, you know, the importance sometimes of a author perhaps maybe traveling to the specific location to be able to get a better feel as to how to write their story, plot, and what have you. And so I guess we still want to follow up with you on that, 2023, as to where do you see yourself in the perhaps maybe the next 5 years. So take, for instance, you are writing a story. This is talking about Julia, and we're going to say Julia lives in London, England. Or we may say she may live in Wyoming or Montana. Those are more like a English type of area as well. So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years as far as traveling to the actual scenes in order to write even more sequels?
Oh, I would love to travel to Cornwall, England. I feel like I've done so much research on that funny little corner of England, and I just feel like if someone just transported me there overnight and I woke up, I'd know where I was. I'd look around and say, I'm in Cornwall. That's like how real it's. I can only imagine to actually go there and walk around there and just look, because not a lot of it it's still there. Even some of those old castles that I mentioned in my books are actually still in part standing there, you know, in the old abbeys and things. So much have been preserved, and I'd probably feel like I literally was back in time. But yeah, I definitely, that is top on my list. I have got to literally go and experience that part of England where all these things I made happen, and London too. But you know, there's just something special about that little southwest corner there, and just how unique it was back then and now. You know, so I would love to see it. I definitely see that in my future.
Correct, because I would think that would even enhance it. You know, especially as if you share that with your book sales or your book signings, or perhaps maybe on the front of the preface. You know, I actually, had an opportunity to travel to, we'll say, Quebec. We'll just put it like that. We don't want to give all your nuggets away. We'll just use Quebec. And so I had an opportunity to travel to Quebec in order to be able to write this series. And this also takes the reader also into the story with you. And so that's what I like as well in things. I love for the author to dive into where they're going, and then if they've actually been there, it seems like that would even enhance it even the more. So that's what I was kind of thinking back here a few months ago. We kind of see each other sometimes on certain platforms online and what have you, and I'm like, that would be really good if Jessica would perhaps maybe be seen in a lot of her story plots and what have you. And then also, even if it's because authors, Jessica, and I think you know this and everybody else know it, they start off as authors and then they also progress into something else like film producers, and then next thing you know, whose lifetime is purchasing the film as to what you have written, so you got to see yourself there too, and they'll purchase it and say, hey, look, we're going to go with this because she's got women, she's got Julia, she got Julia's mother, Julia's sister, she got the whole family that's involved in this story plot. And see, television networks, they get a thrill out of stuff like that. So, and so that's the reason why.
It's like a whole family, it's not just one character or two characters. It's all the intricacies of how all the different characters, play off each other. And people love that. Because why do people love sagas? Because it just sucks you right into that family, and you feel like you're part of it when you're reading it, and that's awesome. I mean, it is. That's a wonderful thing when that happens.
Absolutely. And so our perspective is that that will be perhaps maybe like a long-term goal or maybe a short-term goal that we would love to see you apply to your books as well, because that would be so very awesome. Or even if it's not that one, I know that it's another one. It's not HGTV. I don't know why I'm thinking about that, but it's the Hallmark Channel. They have warm, because this is what type of books that you write. They're warm. You can be able to sit down in the wintertime and, maybe have a bowl of chicken and dumplings and a hot cup of coffee and sit there and just read the book. It's like a warm type of, from what I, looked at the story plot myself, and I'm like, okay, this is something where you can crawl up under the fire and just sit there and just read it for that day, or maybe like a chilled day or something like that in the late part of the summer, and so those type of networks, I'm going to keep saying it, those types of networks, so it can perhaps maybe continue to register. Those type of networks, they get a overwhelming out of novelists such as yourself as to how you bring in, because even though people are doing new productions today, but those type of networks, they like to stay in the, I guess ancient would be the better word. They like to stay in those historical, there it goes, the historical times as well, so it can bring to their viewers a little bit more where they do not get off focus, even though we're in the 21st century millennium, but where the people do not get off focus as to some of the things that may have occurred in the past. So I really, really enjoy reading all of the and yes, I get a joy and a warm sensation out of reading that, and then as well as looking and watching them on the Hallmark Channel. So
it's satisfying. That's what people want. They want that. They want to connect with something emotionally. That's what I really tried to do. Is just like create stories where people can picture themselves being right there in the middle of it. Like it's enough of a fantasy that it satisfies that part, but it's real enough that nobody would roll their eyes and say, "Oh, that would never happen." And it's a balancing act, to do that. But people love it when you pull it off.
Right, exactly. So talk to us a little bit about, we got a little bit under 6 minutes left, but we certainly want you to be able to share with the audience, were there any mentors or other authors that perhaps maybe have inspired you to write, even when you first got started? Because we all have some sort of inspiration where someone helps us to be able to thrive over that hump. I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Yes, I'm going to do it. And so here's someone that may come along. We may have, individuals may have mentors. They may have other individuals that inspire them to be able to write that first book. So were there any mentors that helped you along the way?
Well, probably Victoria Holt she's my all-time historical fiction writer. Now she's been dead for a while now. She actually died on a cruise ship, but she wrote hundreds of books. And she wrote under 3 different names. One was Phyllis A, Victoria Holt, of course, and then Jean Plady. And she had, I got interested in her books. I think I was probably even way too young to read them, but they were just, I couldn't not. Probably read her the first time when I was maybe 10 years old, and I never stopped loving. And the older I got, of course, the better I understood her books and her stories. But I thought at one point, I don't even remember exactly how old I was, but when I realized that writing was going to be a big part of my life, I remember thinking, if I ever write a novel, I want it to be like this, where I just don't want to let it go. Like when I get to the last page, I want to go back to the beginning and start again, because it just is that real, instead of like just what I call flat characters, one-dimensional characters that you almost lose track of who's who, because nobody is different from the other one. Just the classic dialogue, the things you think everybody would say, well, that's boring, And she had a way of, if it was this character talking, after a while you knew. You didn't even have to see the, so-and-so said or so-and-so replied. You knew who it was just by what they were saying and how they were acting. And I always wanted to be able to get character development down like that. But she was definitely my hero. And I just thought she had a unique way of, well, she had so many bestsellers. I guess I'm not the only one who thought it, but and in fact, she did a series that was called The Cornwall Saga. And it was kind of like she did it kind of the way I do mine, where the next book follows the next person in the generation, then the next and the next, And it started out like at first in Cornwall, then it was in different parts of England, but it just kind of, I don't know if that was the official name of the series or people just started to call it that, but she was definitely my inspiration.
Okay, great. So you can share with the listeners, Jessica, how they can be able to find your work, your book, as well as you can be able to share any links that you would like to network with. If the audience desire to network with you after the show, you can be able to share that, or any upcoming book signings that you have. You can be able to do that at this time.
Okay, yeah, I do have a book signing coming up at Tanger Outlets in North Myrtle Beach. That'll be May 7th, and that will start off my book signing series, my book signing events for the season. And then you can find me at Hot Winter Sun and on social media. And if you'd ever like to email, it's woodlandsgirl9933@yahoo.
Oh, okay. So thank you so much for always being a guest with us, Jessica. And, of course, we will be looking for the next sequel that will be coming out to this Part 2 novel that you have, because, it's going to be exciting. And, of course, listeners, if you love historical type of screenplays, this is where you want to be. Go in and get the book. And then also, if you're in the location in the area as to where her next book signing is coming up at, that is the place that you want to be. So thank you so much, Jessica, for being our guest on Women Who Rock with Success Media, and we look forward to having you once again.
Always a pleasure to be on with you. Thank you.